So in what amounts to pretty much the worst kept secret in rugby, we now have official confirmation that yes, Andy Farrell is the head coach for the British and Irish Lions for their 2025 tour to Australia. Richly deserved. After 3 tours of Warren Gatland, 3 series with Warren Gatland as the head coach, it had to be someone else, and there was no other candidate besides Andy Farrell with the job that he's done for Ireland. Grand Slam in 2023, world number 1, record number of test victories on home soil for Ireland, historic series victories away from home. Who else could it be? So I want to talk about how Andy Farrell has got to this point, the pinnacle of his sport as a coach, what it means for the Lions, and also who are the people that he might surround himself with in terms of coaches and in terms of captains. I'll get into all of that, and I want your thoughts on all that and anything else in the comments down below. I'm Tim. This is Egg Chasers. Thank you for watching. And yeah, again, well done, Andy Farrell. It's 11 years ago he became defence coach at England, a part of a really exciting and young England coaching team, all of whom have gone on to do really very well. Stuart Lancaster, Mike Catt, Andy Farrell, Graham Rowntree, all fantastic, but all got burnt by that 2015 World Cup experience and all got cast aside by England, who look a bit stupid now, don't they? So in between that time, having taken over the England head coach and then moving to Ireland as he did after that 2015 World Cup to become their defence coach, he went on the 2013 Lions tour down to Australia. He also then went with Warren Gatland again in 2017 to New Zealand on that tour. But he did not go on the 2021 tour to South Africa. And I think that, when you look back at Andy Farrell's coaching career, that's one of the biggest decisions he made. Not what he did do, but what he didn't do. He didn't go on that Lions tour because he wanted to focus on Ireland. And then, of course, in 2022, there was that historic series victory in New Zealand. And it's only when you look back at that series, you kind of realise how special a job it was that Andy Farrell did. Because yes, they won their first ever match on New Zealand soil and then followed it up with a second a week later to win their first ever series in New Zealand. But that was all after Andy Farrell had made the bold choice to take a bigger than normal squad, play midweek games as well as weekend games to try and replicate the pressures of a World Cup a little bit. Unfortunately, he had lots of injuries and illnesses that meant he had a crisis. He didn't have the players available to the point that I can't remember the name of the guy. Was it? I want to say his surname was Bent. Michael Bent? Anyway, a prop who was Irish but playing in New Zealand had to be drafted in late notice to just fill spots in the squad. They got absolutely hammered in that first test match. So he would have been rabbit in the headlights. What is going on? And he just had that mental fortitude and calmness to turn it around. And it is a remarkable turnaround from test 1 to tests 2 and 3. And I think just gives you a glimpse at what a special character Andy Farrell is. It's something that all players talk about in relation to him. And the Ireland guys absolutely love him, as everyone does that seems to play underneath him. So he's going to be a very popular selection as British and Irish Lions head coach. That is a role he will start in December of this year. So he will have nothing to do with Ireland well, obviously he might consult, but hands-on purposes and actual coaching, selecting teams and stuff, he will not be in charge of Ireland for the 2025 Six Nations. You would imagine that job might go to Simon Easterby, who is the most experienced of the Irish coaches that work alongside Andy Farrell. And hey, that might end up being a really good thing for Ireland, giving some experience to someone who knows, may take the reins in the future, or at least it will develop the overall coaching team. And Ireland, you can imagine they're going to be in a pretty good place by this time next year. They can cope without Andy Farrell for a few months, especially as all of the players will be playing for a spot to wear this jersey. And we need a good tour. We need this badge to mean what it once meant again, because it's been a horrible period with the Lions lately. Because, well, I mean, firstly, the concern is that it might not be a great tour going down under. Australia, not in a great place. Dumped out of a World Cup, worst ever World Cup campaign, and coaching set up in turmoil, players leaving the sport to go and play a different code, and it's just not a happy camp. And the concern is that the Lions might roll into town and just wallop Australia. That would not be good for the whole concept of the British and Irish Lions. So I hope that Australia can sort themselves out in the next 18 months. But the last tour was not great. Through nobody's fault, really. Obviously, the whole COVID situation meant that South Africa had very little time to prepare for it since the World Cup. And it was actually amazing the job South Africa did to pull some performances together, given how little time they had to prepare. But it did mean that they had to play a very pragmatic, simple style of rugby. And Warren Gatland kind of tried to go a bit toe-to-toe with them. And so it wasn't a great spectacle. And a big part of that is the fact, as you can see from that picture there were no crowds. And the fans are what the British and Irish Lions are about. British and Irish Lions tours without the fans means very little. So off the back of that tour to South Africa, if Australia is just a 3-0 washout, it's a bit of a concern. But here's hoping that that isn't the case. In terms of personnel, when you actually look at the squad from last time round, more than half of Warren Gatland's squad for the 2021 tour to South Africa also went on the tour to New Zealand 4 years previously. Now, what that means is that I think the 2025 British and Irish Lions are going to feel much newer and fresher than the previous tour. You're going to see a lot more new faces than you did before, and that's quite exciting. But you just look at some of the names on that list there. Jamie George, Ken Owens, Tyg Furlong, Manu Vunipola, Alan Wynne-Jones, Courtney Laws, Taulupe Faletau, Justin Tipperick, Dan Bigger, Conor Murray, Stuart Hogg, Liam Williams, Owen Farrell. The list goes on. So a lot of amazing players who already, when they went to South Africa, were towards the end of their career. So it's going to be a much younger, fresher squad that Andy Farrell will be selecting. As for the coaches that he's going to pick alongside him, who are the contenders? Well, let me just say straight out the bat, and tell me if you disagree. Get stuck in the comments down below. By the way, as well, if you get value from the channel, if you enjoy your rugby content and you appreciate what I'm doing here on Egg Chasers, please, I'd love it if you'd hit that subscribe button and give the video a thumbs up. It really helps, and I'd appreciate it. I desperately want Ronan O'Gara to go. Not just because he's one of the finest coaches that any of the British and Irish nations have to offer with the job that he's done at La Rochelle. He's been travelling the world, soaking up experiences from all over. He's doing a great job. But also, if there is a documentary behind the scenes, I want this guy part of it, because he doesn't pull his punches and he just says it how it is. And I love that about Ronan O'Gara. So please, and it would be another great experience for Ronan O'Gara on his what looks like a procession towards the Island top job. Although Paul O'Connell might have something to say about that, and maybe he'll go. We'll see about that. Anyway, I'd love to see Stuart Lancaster, who now at Racing 92 in Paris. They might have something to say about that, because I imagine he's not on small money there, and there's a lot of pressure on him to do well in that job. So they might not like him disappearing for several months during a pre-season. So we'll see about that. But I'd love to see it, because he's a great coach. Gregor Townsend, you'd have to say, is still on the radar, because typically the British and Irish Lions tours, they like to get representation behind the scenes, off the pitch, from all of the nations where possible. So Gregor Townsend would be a decent shout. Do you know what? This is what I'd love. I've already mentioned Stuart Lancaster. Do you know what I would really love? It's for Andy Farrell to pick all of that 2015 England coaching ticket, which have gone on to do so well, all of them in Ireland. Stuart Lancaster at Leinster, Mike Catt and Andy Farrell at Ireland, and Graham Rowntree over in Munster. I would love them to just shove it down all the English journalists' throats by being the Lions head coaches and doing an amazing job. Because, again, when I reflect, as an Englishman, when I reflect on the coaching team we had and just let go to get Eddie Jones in, it pains me. And these are all proud Englishmen. So, yeah, we'll see. I don't expect that to happen, but I would love it to happen. Tell me what you think in the comments down below. One thing that just popped into my head is that what's the style that the British and Irish Lions might play with under Andy Farrell? Because what he's done at Ireland is develop something very intricate, and where he's got his Ireland team in kind of a hive mind. They all seem to just know what everyone else is doing and just manage to execute amazingly. That took a long time to cultivate. So I don't think we will see that necessarily replicated for the British and Irish Lions. In fact, almost certainly won't be replicated. But that's why he's got the job from December right through to the end of the tour, because he will be hatching a plan to go down under and beat Australia. And finally, captain. Who are the contenders potentially to be captain? It's an important job still in rugby anyway, but even more so when it comes to a British and Irish Lions tour. This person is the focal point. Such an important role. Contenders at this moment, Jack Morgan, you'd have to say. It's got to be someone that can absolutely guarantee holding down their position, though. So we'll have to see, maybe by the Six Nations 2025, Jack Morgan is the absolute standout candidate on that open side flank. The other one that could be there at that point is Tom Curry. If he can stay fit and well, the guy's an absolute beast. And I think he's got captaincy potential in him, potentially with England. We'll see very soon, although it looks like it's going to go to Jamie George at the moment. Anyway, other contenders, you'd have to say, well, curveball. I've already mentioned Stuart Lancaster at Racing 92. Andy Farrell can still select any player. You don't have to play international rugby to be selected to play for the Lions. Would he pick Owen if he wasn't playing for England? Could he even be captain of the Lions in 2025? I mean, that would be... what an amazing storyline that would be. I don't think Andy Farrell would shy away from picking his son if he felt it was justified. We'll have to wait and see on that. That would be a proper curveball. And then in terms of the other captain options, it has to be someone who can guarantee their spot, is a standout selection. If James Ryan can continue progressing in the way that he has done in the last year, then I think he will be the standout choice at second row in another 18 months' time. And is he going to be made Ireland coach? We'll find out very soon. But by the time the Lions comes around, he may well be an established international captain, in which case he would be a good shout. Other potential, Dan Sheehan, an automatic selection you'd feel in 18 months' time, so it has to be considered. And the same would go for Gary Ringrose, who I'm hearing quite a bit of noise about him being Ireland's captain for this Six Nations as well. So we'll see. But overall, I'm buzzing for Andy Farrell. It's the obvious and outstanding candidate in the field, and he thoroughly deserves it. Tell me what you think on any of the things I've just discussed. Give the video a thumbs up, hit subscribe, and I will see you on the next one.